Ladies and gentlemen, it is almost the appointed hour, or half hour.
Nice to meet you. Where are you from, Al? Jonesboro. Okay. There. I'm working at administration.
We got about a minute.
Right, I like that jacket. Nice one.
How are you this morning? Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Come down this morning or last
I did.
night?
I just got here like 5 minutes ago.
Reinforce this. I told Lord.
How are you? Greg, how are you, buddy? Good to see you. I'll get here last night.
I did. I had to come in last night. I was afraid that I get caught in traffic this morning and life came I woke up this morning and looking, and they up in Jacksonville past Captain. So glad I came in
Here, I was like, I'm not gonna make it. Yeah. Let's see.
If we could, I'm going to call this meeting to order, and if you all and my fellow board members, we would silence our cell phones. I'll make sure I silence mine. Yes, I have. And I would also ask that when the time comes, if you get up to speak to the board, if you would identify yourself and your institution, please. And thank you. And we're going to get right to business and turn it over to the Finance Committee, and that would be Mr. Rebels. Chair.
Thank you. First agenda item we have to look at on the Finance Committee is agenda item number 12. Ms. Robinson is already ready to go.
Yes, sir.
Please, thank you.
Arkansas State University of Jonesboro requests a loan from the Arkansas Sustainable Building Design Revolving Loan Fund. The requested loan is for $1 million for 10 years at a rate not to exceed 0%. It will be used for educational and general purposes. The revenue funding source will be tuition and fee revenue. Proceeds from the loan will provide roofing replacements for the Fowler Center, College of Education and Communications, and the Military Science Armory. ADHE's executive staff recommends the approval of the resolution. Are there any questions?
Don't think you can beat that interest rate, can you?
No, sir.
Any questions? If not, I'd entertain a motion that we recommend this to the full board. So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Thank you. All right, let's move on to number 13. Thank you.
Arkansas State University Mid-South requests a loan for $1.5 million for 20 years at a rate not to exceed 3.3%. It will be used for educational and general purposes. The revenue funding source will be tuition and fee revenue. Proceeds from the loan will provide needed campus-wide energy improvements, which will include lighting retrofits, water and waste management strategies, chiller upgrades, as well as installation of other energy control mechanisms. ADHE's executive staff recommends the approval of the resolution. Are there any questions?
I have a question, Mr. Chairman. I noticed some of these improvements are for energy efficiency. Are there rebates associated with those from the energy companies?
Let me defer to the, yes.
And are those rebates figured into the calculation in terms of payback, or what happens to those rebates, I guess is my bottom line question. Good morning. So they're included into the net, they're netted out in terms of the net cost and what you're at, the dollar amount you're asking for. Rebates are all netted out of that.
Yes, sir.
Good deal. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything else? If not, I'll entertain a motion that we recommend this one to the full board.
So moved.
All right. Need a second? Okay, we got a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we'll move on to the information item, and we got
I'm not Nick Fuller.
no, you're not Nick Fuller.
Unfortunately, for his first board meeting, he celebrated by getting the flu. So I'm pinch hitting for Nick today. This is an information item. It's the annual financial conditions report. The purpose of this report is to describe financial conditions of Arkansas public institutions of higher education and any challenges experienced by Arkansas public institutions of higher education. This can be found in your agenda book beginning on page 14-1. Topics addressed therein are needs-based funding model, performance-based funding, comparison of Arkansas faculty salaries to other SREB states, trends in tuition and fees, fund balances of our institutions, and also institutional scholarship expenditures and athletic expenditures. And it should be noted that the dollar amounts listed for scholarship expenditures do not include private or foundation scholarships, so those are a separate calculation. Of note in the financial conditions report is our faculty salaries compared to other SREB states. As per usual, red is bad, and you will see that we remain at the bottom of faculty salaries. This is at our four-year institutions of all of the SREB states. We are roughly $12,000 annually below the average. We have made a little progress for our two-year faculty. We have moved up from last to about fourth from the bottom of the SREB states. We still lag behind the SREB average by around $10,000 annually for faculty at our two-year institutions. Tuition and fees are also listed in the report. The one-year average increase for our four-year institutions and our two-year institutions are both 4%. That's from the 16-17 academic year to the 17-18 academic year. As you know, we've had flat to declining state revenues in the face of consistent inflation. The 4% rate is about what you would expect based on those other funding sources. There's a chart that breaks down the one-year increase, the five-year increase, and the five-year average increase for our four-year institutions. And then we also have one for our two-year institutions. More detail about that is found in the report. We also have information on fund balance. The optimal fund balance range is between 5 and 14%. All of our four-year institutions maintain fund balances at least above that 5% threshold. We have one two-year institution that fell below, and I have to remind the board that that's largely based on the requirement to book their insurance as an obligation because of the system that they're on. They're still on the state's retirement. Is that right, Dr. Rook? Insurance and retirement? Yes. So there's a graphic that depicts the trends for the fund balances at the four-year institutions. They're all within that optimal range, or at least at the 5% range. And then the two-year institutions. And the one for College of the Ouachitas, again, the negative fund balance there is driven by their requirement to book liabilities in a different way based on the fact that they're still in the state system. Institutional scholarships are also reviewed. Again, there's a 20% limit on E&G for tuition and fee revenue as opposed to tuition and fee revenue. So only 20% of tuition and fee revenue can be dedicated to scholarships. I won't read that to you. The calculations are there on what the total dollar amount of scholarships recorded were. And again, these are only scholarships that are supported by state revenue. So private and foundation scholarships are not there, and neither are waivers of tuition and fees. Again, this chart just depicts scholarshiping levels for our four-year institutions. So the recommendations of this report is to continue to work with institutions to monitor and refine productivity funding model policies to ensure adequate funding is available to meet student needs, innovation is encouraged, and that the policies continue to respond to attainment goals and priorities of the state. Along those lines, we have two subgroups who are currently working on adjustments to the productivity funding model for both training and post-completion success additions to those as a metric to the productivity funding model. Also, that institutions of higher education, in conjunction with the coordinating board and the department, continue to work with the legislature toward alignment of institutional funding policies, state financial aid policies, and tuition policies in a way that prioritizes higher education affordability. And I'd be happy to take any questions.
Any questions?
Mr. Chairman, I have a question. Dr. Markham, I don't know if this question is really directed at you as it is maybe some of the universities. I know that the governor is proposing more funding in the biennial session, and he's asked the universities and colleges to try to hold tuition and not increase those. And as I look at this report, at some of the tuition increases over the last 5 years, most are beyond the rate of inflation, some significantly so. And help me with my memory here. I try to read the paper every day, but do we know what colleges have come out or universities have come out and said they're going to hold tuition as per the governor's request?
At last report, I know all but one of the four-year institutions have committed to holding their in-state tuition flat. For the two-year institutions, I'm not completely sure on that. I don't think we have a count. I'm looking at my communications person on that. So that would be a question to the institutions, whether or not they've committed to holding to the governor's request.
Which college has not?
And I don't know that they haven't. They just haven't communicated with us, and that was Arkansas Tech. We have not gotten any feedback from them.
Anyone from Arkansas Tech here that can update us on that? Interesting, because I noticed you're high on the percentage list for increases. So hopefully you'll be able to hold the tuition, and that would be a good thing for students, I'm sure. That's all my questions. Thanks.
Anyone else have any questions? Thank you. I believe that concludes our committee meeting. If someone would make a motion to adjourn. All right. Thank you. Let's all in favor. We're adjourned, Madam Chairman.